That's there. I hope people can hear me. Okay. Settings for that, if I can. Edit. Should be fine. I think I'm okay. I don't know what the link is for this though, now I'm thinking about it. Aaron, do you mind checking the link for me? I'm gonna send it to you in an email from Dylan or from our account real quick. I just need to make sure the mic is working because if it's not, I don't know what to do. Okay. Because I have the visual.
Yeah. You look so purposeful. Yeah, there was, but you missed it. No.
I was just gonna put the laptop, Aaron, by the. Oh. All right. Cool. I'm gonna put the laptop by the camera, unless you want me to put it somewhere else.
Kyle, come back here for a second.
All right, we're on live right now, just as a heads up to people.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow,
I just got that. So I have to take my book.
But feel free to answer the questions.
Yeah, all my questions are for the next. Oh, that's fine. I'm more than ready.
All right, Bill. That's one of like the doctors.
Oh.
Alex. Oh, where is it?
He's not here yet.
Bro.
Good afternoon, everyone. I open this meeting at 8:16. Does the motion to roll call?
Motion. President Lamb. Present. Vice President Morrow.
Yeah.
Director Stevens. Present. Treasurer Lake. Coordinator Clay. Here. Secretary Woolley. Here. Senator Rita Rudo. Present. Vice President Mazzotti. Vice President Pastore.
Here.
Vice President Hatfield.
Here.
Senator McBetsy. Here. Senator Norton. Present. Senator Mora. Oh, here. Senator Ryan.
Present.
Senator Will Popovich. Senator Stevens. Here. Senator Schwartz.
Here.
Senator Sosa. Here. Senator Amos. Senator Dehart.
Present.
Senator Minor. Senator Rutherford. Senator Brooks. Senator Campbell. Senator Lacy.
Here.
Senator Tuggle. IDEA Representative Webster. Here. Staff Rep Atkins.
Here.
Open House Representative Crane.
Here. Okay, a few minutes before we start, we are live streaming, so please project tonight. There will not be any committee night this week, but we'll have it next week. And so, yeah, starting off, do any student speak ups tonight? And once, then twice, gone. We have two guest speakers tonight. Our first guest speaker is Lori, anything else again? Cheryl, Director of the Wellness Center. So,
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So I'm coming here tonight to talk to you about my SSP. Just a review of where it is. I know that the SGA voted to purchase it last year, and it rolled out this year. And so I'm here to just answer your questions or review it with you to see where we stand and how it's going. I have some statistics for you that the company sent. As of the end of October, 110 students have downloaded the app. 15 people have used it. And then they broke down the reasons that they used it into anxiety, communication issues, grief, mental health condition, relationship, and stress. So those are the overall stats we know. So what questions do you have or your input?
Questions or minutes?
I remember passing this bill. I don't remember for how long we funded it. So is it going to be for the rest of this semester and then we have to revisit it at the end of the spring semester to pay for another year, or do we pay for 2 years?
The SGA paid for 1 year, and the business office from the college made the purchase for 2 years, and it will roll into the wellness center budget next year.
Okay. what kind of advertising is going on for my SSP? Because I remember we talked about it a little bit in the spring, but I feel like maybe one of the reasons for kind of the underutilization would be it's not as, like, people who visit the wellness center might know about it, but I feel like maybe the wider campus community, that knowledge is a little bit not, I guess the knowledge base isn't there, which is, I think, the general problem we see on campus is the students aren't necessarily going. Anyways, what's the advertising looking like for the MySSP through the wellness center?
We put it on our website and social media, but the advertising was a plan for the SGA to advertise and roll it out, so you want to talk
I'll
about
say a little bit. We have flyers. I don't know. I used to keep them in here and put them out randomly, but I don't think I have anymore. We have flyers that were placed around campus at the beginning of the semester, but I think that the wellness committee could probably take charge and put a little bit more out, given that we have 110 students downloaded it.
When I did the training for the RAs at the beginning of the year, I told them about it and asked them to download it.
Yeah, and I think RAs were also sent an email about the resource and asked to include that in their communication with students. I don't know, are RAs in the room, if that's something you regularly do? So these are all avenues that we can probably explore a little bit more for advertising.
Any more questions for the Senate? Going once?
I have a question. With the departure of Kelly Muldoon, just like from the office, I'm not sure if you're planning on hiring another counselor. But in the next year, like, do you expect an increase in students using this platform just because there will be one less person in the office as a resource, I guess?
We have 2 counselors who are resigning as of December 16th, so Emily Lamoureux and Kelly Muldoon are both leaving the wellness center. We did hire an assistant director, so we will have that position filled. The length of time it took to fill the open assistant director position leads me to believe that replacing 2 more positions is not going to be easy. My hope would be that my SSP could serve as a resource for students. I'm just a little disappointed that the usage is so low. And I'd really like some ideas on how to normalize using it for help with students, how to get the word out, because you all voted to spend a lot of money for this resource. And with it not being utilized, it just feels like a waste.
Thank you. No, yeah, I think that's on our part, but I have a question.
I think it may be also normalizing using an online resource for mental health care. I think the average student, I would ideally like a one-on-one counseling session, but as like our whole total geographic area is underserved, it's hard to find counselors in the area, it's hard to hire counselors, so how can we provide services maybe in a creative way? I hope my SSP is part of that.
Any more questions from the Senate? Senator Collins?
As co-chair for the Campus Wellness Committee, I was wondering, I know since it's timing, I was wondering if you want to like set up meetings regularly so we can figure out how to advertise it better, as a committee, and get your input and see if we can come up with any ideas, since I really wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to really utilize it across campus. So if you'd be open to starting a communication.
Yeah, we have planning documents that we shared, and I thought we were.
Well, I haven't.
Our students.
Okay, I've been asking them to meet and go through some things. I think everyone just got busy. But yes, that would be ideal.
Okay, any more questions for the Senate? Going once?
This isn't really a question, but I was sitting here and I was thinking, I feel like maybe the biggest demographic that we could hit for usage of my SSP would be like the underclassmen, the freshmen and sophomores. And I was sitting here, and I think this is more for like the SGA. I think we should think about this. I think we should try to do like guerrilla marketing through social media, like for example, Yik Yak. Really, I do. I think it's really popular right now, especially with the underclassmen. And I think if we were to use non-traditional tactics that more appeal to the fact that, you know, we're in a predominantly online world now, with like COVID, but also with like just modern development. I think that's something that we as a Senate and representatives of the student body should consider, to try to make sure that it's not just the same 100 students that are seeing all of our advertisements, you know, and it's people who actually need it are seeing this stuff. Okay, that's all I want to say.
Any more questions from the Senate? Going once, going twice. Thank you so much for coming.
I thank you, thank you very much.
Also, point of order, Senator Brooks, Hudson, Donnie, Treasury. All right. Our next, the next guest speaker is our own Senator Calvin Ryan, who is the Student Representative for the Academic Policy Committee. Also, the projector isn't working, so if you have to use the projector, that's okay. Also, I just emailed to everyone, if you have like a presentation today.
Okay, no, I don't have like a presentation, it's just like the questions. Okay. So I'm Calvin, as you know, and I am your student representative for the Academic Policy Committee, which is the committee that like goes through student appeals. So if you want to withdraw from class, like, you send your appeal to my committee and we vote. We also either approve or deny pending academic policies, and the one that we're looking at right now is this repeat policy. And we're going to be looking at a whole bunch more. So this is just the first of many probably. So before I answer the questions that were submitted, does anybody want me to explain again, like how it would work on the transcript? Because I can run through that. Yeah. Okay. So, if you want to pull up my email, that would probably be the most effective thing so that you can look at this transcript with me. It's the email that I sent you like last Tuesday. I sent you one a couple days ago again, reminding you. Okay, so basically with this sample transcript here, this student took elementary Spanish in the spring term of 2020 and received a D at SMCM. They then opt to retake this course at College of Southern Maryland, and they receive an A. Okay, so under the current policy, when they get that A at CSM, the D gets removed from the computation of their transcript. The A is not added into the computation. It never was. But the D is removed from the computation of that GPA. It stays on the transcript, however. It stays on the transcript in the current policy, in the proposed policy. And the credits replace the credits that you took at SMCM. So the class at CSM was 3 credits. The class at SMCM was 4 credits. So now you have 1 less credit. But you have a higher GPA because the D is gone from the computation. Under the proposed repeat policy, that D would still be in the computation of the GPA. But the D would still be in the computation of the GPA, but the credits from both courses stay. So you end up with more credits, but a lower GPA. So it basically bars you from repeating a class at another institution that is not St. Mary's. So is that clear or? Yes. Okay. So I'll run through the questions that you guys submitted to me now. So will this only impact community college classes taken after the policy goes into effect, or even ones taken before? It will only impact courses taken after this policy goes into effect, which would be if it passes through my committee and through the faculty senate and faculty at large in fall 2022. So why? I do want to why is this change being proposed? What does the Academic Affairs Office find beneficial about removing the ability to repeat a course for an enhanced grade at a different institution? So the registrar's office actually brought this proposal to our committee. And so they originally stated that the reason for this change was that the current policy, the current system that we use with the repeat policy would not work with the new system that's being installed in fall 2022. So it was kind of a technological thing. But obviously, faculty members and I on the committee did not really like that answer much. So we're like, you gotta give us something more than that. They said, the registrar's office came back and said, well, this also puts us more in line with other Maryland state schools. Because other Maryland state schools like Towson and UMD, they use the repeat policy that is our proposed policy. So it would put us more in line with other Maryland state schools. And then the faculty members on the committee like this policy because it kind of leads to a greater consistency and fluidity within the SMCM curriculum. It matches better. So like you're getting like all of the courses straight from St. Mary's and not, information from like other colleges. So for that reason, the faculty like it. How does the proposed policy benefit the student directly? So it's kind of like a trade-off. So it benefits the student in the sense that they can boost the number of credits that they have by keeping both sets, the SMCM one and the transfer set. But that's in replacement of the GPA increase, since that's not going out. Since that first grade that you earn at SMCM is not going out of the computation of GPA. And then I also asked the registrar about this morning, and according to him, since the faculty approved the policy allowing students within 4 credits of completing their requirements to participate in commencement, we've had an average of 25 students per year take advantage of that. The bulk of those students tend to graduate the following summer or fall. This proposed policy could help some of them finish on time. So it gives them more credits to potentially graduate on time, is what the registrar's office is claiming. And I also want to note that for retaking classes at SMCM, this policy in no way affects that. That will still be the same. This is just if you opt to retake a class at another institution. And then another important question that I got was, I'm just going to read out this scenario. So how will the proposed policy affect students if they want to repeat a course for a better grade, but the course is not being offered during the semester for which they would like to repeat it? For example, what if I'm a junior and I got a D in advanced social studies, a class only offered in the spring, and I would like to take it again for my senior year, but it conflicts with my spring schedule? How would I go about improving my grade if I cannot take the course at another institution? So unfortunately, with this new policy, the only way that you can improve your grade is by retaking that course at SMCM. So you have to find a way to schedule or just take the, frankly, just take the L in that case. And I also proposed this question to the registrar, and they said, if a student is a psychology major, they need a minimum of a C- to count it toward their major. Under the proposed policy, say a student takes advanced social psych at UMD and gets a B and transfer it. They would keep the credits. So basically, this is what I said before, keeping the credits, but with the trade-off with the lower GPA. They would keep the credits for both the SMCM course and the UMD course, and the major requirement is fulfilled. The D they earned for the course here is still calculated into their cumulative GPA. In order to replace the D they earned here, their GPA, they have to retake the class here. So all in all, it's encouraging retaking SMCM classes at SMCM. So that is a lot. Are there any questions now that I can answer?
And we're only gonna take a few questions. Keep going.
I have a question, just because, like, I know people that have used this system. I know who the old policy has benefited at the same time, like, I have a question about, so for the most part, like, when students, especially freshmen, fail classes in their freshman year, like, they often have to change their major because they can't continue, like, whatever major that was in. So in doing that, they're not necessarily, like, they often have to take other classes at institutions, or other institutions just in order to catch up. Like, in order to graduate on time and to be back on track. And like, I've witnessed this with several students. And so, I don't necessarily think like the more credits, the lower GPA is helpful in that sense, because what happens is they graduate with a lower GPA, and it just like sets them behind, like, the rest of, but they're still taking other classes at other institutions just to catch themselves back up in terms of their major too.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is like, if a student does fail their whole freshman year and then isn't able to get their GPA back up, how is it going to affect like student athletes who may not have had their best first year here, and other students who need like a boosted GPA in order to get to graduate school? I think there's like several students who come in at a disadvantage, like college first generation college students, and others who don't have a normal kind of high school or family situation or whatever it is to guide them through that first year, and then aren't able to ever get their GPA back up enough to be successful post-grad. So I think that's a concern we should consider, and I don't know if there's not a ton of resources at least. Like, we have some resources, but I don't feel like those resources are always utilized to help for the students. So I think passing this policy is,
No,
there's some concern, I guess.
I totally feel you. I got you. And that's why I wanted to come here to get y'all's perspective, because I wanted to vote on it in the right way. So you think that the doc and the GPA would be more harmful than the extra credits would be beneficial? Okay, that's good to know. And if you could fill out if you could all fill out that survey, I would really, really, really appreciate it, so I can get a wide range of perspectives.
Sarah Campbell.
So after you explain it more, I kind of understand it more than just like you use it.
Right.
So what I don't understand is if their reasoning was so that they wouldn't have to bring in those other credits from other institutions, but they're still allowing that. So it kind of just doesn't make any sense how like that would benefit them. 'Cause, like, so instead of just like taking over credit, they're still like bringing in those other credits to be with it because it's like the same course. And you also said that it would, like, if they failed it and then they retook it, it could still go to like a required credit or something like that. So it's like the same, I don't really see how it's benefiting them.
No, and I definitely see what you're saying, and I can't speak to that personally. I just know what I was told from like, that it was technological reasons, maybe something with getting that old course out with the new system would be difficult. And I know that that's not really a good reason. I really hate it when they gave us that reason. But that's what they really was.
We're gonna take one last question for Saturday night.
Yeah, so I think they said it was, the biggest reason I think right now they offered was to put it in line with other like UMD and Towson.
Yeah, that's the official reason.
So my personal opinion on the administration's push to get us in line, I have a lot of issues with push to get us in line with schools like UMD and Towson. I think the biggest issue for this is exclusively beneficial for students at schools where multiple sections of courses are offered every semester. The example that was put up of like, well, advanced social psych is only offered once a semester, in the spring. For example, for me, I'm an upper level chemistry major. There's one section of physical chemistry offered, and physical chemistry is one section offered in the fall. If you're a biochem major and you only have to take Pchem 1, People frequently fail it. It's harder than organic chemistry, but most people don't go past orgo unless you're like a chem or biochem major. So people don't know that. Really easy to fail PChem. There's only one section offered. Or any humanities class. Only one section offered because it's one professor's like specialty. That's at UMD in Towson, this course policy works because every single course is offered in multiples. Like typically you look up any course registration, it's offered in triplicate. So I think that's the first major issue I found with that justification. I think in trying to get us on par with other schools, it would significantly disadvantage our students. I also think, to me, this reeks of monetary gain. I think this is, they want students to pay an extra, what is it, $200 for every extra credit, so 4 credit class. They want students to pay an extra $800 to retake the course at St. Mary's instead of giving that course to a community college where they can retake it.
Then I think just like acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about it. As students, I think we've all noticed the trend that, we're shifting towards monetary motivation for policy at this school. Not to crap on anything, but I think that's what this smacks of to me. And I think that any casual student would recognize that. I understand the benefit of, you get more credits versus GPA. I think that's important for administration looking at it, credit-wise. For a student, GPA is way more important. And I think that my anecdotal experience is most students graduate with more credits than they need, not they're scrambling for credits at the end. Most of my friends right now are trying to figure out a way to justify only taking 4 credits their spring semester of their senior year. Because they're like, I don't need any more. So I think that this, although this is on par with other larger institutions, UMD has an undergraduate population of what, 50K? Towson is 20, we're 1,500. Yeah. I think there's several significant issues with this, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the students. So I'll fill out the survey, and that's why I stopped Calvin at the gym this morning. What are the questions about this? But I'm really glad for the demo, and I'll write all that down. But that was just like as we were talking about it, that's what was in my head. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, I really appreciate this.
Maybe more 5 minutes, let's like a quick comment. It's a quick comment, okay. Since I think got more understanding of policy actually presented, can you send out a form survey or find one with possibly?
Yes,
Okay.
email me. Yeah, so if you want to talk to me outside, I'm in the Rainbow Room all the time. You can email me. Thank you, this was very helpful. I will bring these concerns to the committee. If you could help with that survey, that'd be great. Thank you.
And I also have faculty sent this Thursday, so if they do bring up this policy, I will definitely chime in.
The next thing on
Okay, so moving on to legislation, our first legislation tonight, actually, our 5 different legislation. Our first one is the club constitution for the archery club, Thursday, Friday night. That's okay. So please state something like the club.
I represent the archery club. We hope to start next semester. We've done some surveys. We have a good interest, and we hope you guys let us in.
Any questions on Senate?
So when you say like good interest, what does that look like in terms of numbers of responses and in terms of demographics? So like class year, male, female, to the best of your knowledge.
As far as I remember, we've had about, I want to say around 20 upperclassmen, juniors and seniors, and about another, I want to say 15 underclassmen. But that's only of the very small sample that we asked. I'm sure that once we have more, once we're actually out there and people know that we exist, we expect a bit more interest. Of what I've seen, I think there's a bit more interest from men over women. But I think that once we're out there and people see us go and see that we don't plan on being a very intense sports club. We intend for this to be an activity sport and a bit social. And I think that once people see that we're on the chill side, more people, it'll be more unisex interest.
Thank you. Any more questions? Actually, no, there's a moderator.
Okay, so I have a quick question. So obviously, archery has its risks to it. So I wanted to know what communications you have with the proper, I guess,
Channel?
procedural things to make sure that it is allowed here on campus, and what safety measures you'll be taking, and like certification wise.
Okay. We've been talking with public safety, mostly about ensuring that we have a safe place to store our equipment. They said that they would allow us to keep our equipment, mainly the arrows in their cabinet. Besides that, Sauter, who is the head of the club, he couldn't be here today. He does have a second level certification from the Archery Association of America. This allows him to certify other people as instructors. And between the two of us, there's about 10 years of experience. So we can make sure that everyone stays safe and secure. Besides that, we also plan on first buying some safety equipment. There is arm guards and perhaps finger pads if we have the money, although those are not as necessary. We also plan on being a bit more, on setting up in a more remote place than, I guess, some sports clubs. We hope to get a space in the Guam field, although that is a very requested area, so maybe we can go over to the baseball field, both of which are remote and there's really no chance of hurting anyone.
Okay, no more questions from the Senate. Any more questions? Anyone? Okay.
Have you talked to Mary Beth at all about the timeline for getting that practice space set up? My sister did archery for a while when she was a kid, and I remember like her practice areas, like I understand what you're saying about, Guam field and the baseball area being like remote, but her practice areas were usually like an acre or two behind the shooting area of just open kind of like field where there was really no risk on existing like probably 7 or 8 acres of property. Like it was a haul to get actually out to where they needed to shoot from where we was like park a car. So do you have like a timeline of when that area would be set up with Mary Beth or?
We have been talking with Mary Beth.
Okay.
She said that because the Guam field is as contested as it is, that perhaps we will have to be in a different space. A setup is not very intense. I mean, depending on the budget, we can set up an entire shed or even an indoor range. But the most we actually need is 2 hay bales and a printed out target.
Okay. And then
as for space, the only way I can reasonably see someone truly hurting anyone from those spaces is if they genuinely just try to aim for someone.
Okay. And then I guess a follow-up to that would be, what kind of, like, are you aiming this to be more club sport, where it's kind of like smut, where it's a little bit of a social aspect, but at the end of the day, they're still practicing, they do events and go to competitions, or for people who are already pretty well versed in archery and want to just like use it as a way to practice while they're at campus. And like essentially what kind of events is this club planning to do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We think that at least for the first semester, or perhaps even the first year, we'll be in the practice area. And then hopefully as interest grows, then we can branch out and become more like SMART.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much. Can I have a motion for a voice vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstained? Okay. You can use just the ayes have it, therefore this club constitution is adopted. Thank you. I will be at home. Next is bylaws amendment Act 2103, club service project renewal. Co-coordinator Claire, you have the floor.
Awesome. So, the club service project is a community service project that clubs are supposed to do every semester. And it is part of the bylaws, which I'm trying to remove because for three main reasons. First, we haven't done this in 2 years. It's kind of old. Current club leaders, like the people who are in the positions today, do not know what this requirement is. Secondly, there used to be a second club coordinator, and their job was specifically to do the service project. And if this was to be, because if it stays in the bylaws, I plan to implement it, but it's just, even if it's boiled down very simply, it's still a lot of work at its core, because managing any task requires like rules and implications and like verification. And third, a lot of clubs have been like, clubs have already a lot of expectations. For example, they have to go to boot camp, they have to fill the transition paper, they have to go to club council, they have to go to club involvement affairs. And I feel, especially based off the fact that we had legislation about like this semester where we got rid of 7 clubs, and clubs are struggling to maintain a lot of the requirements. I think adding another requirement would just hurt clubs. And as a fourth point, which isn't in there, but what part of on the question document is upholding the St. Mary's Way. I feel clubs should uphold the St. Mary's Way and already do through their normal activities.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the Senate? Senator Nancy.
Not necessarily a question, but I feel like it's really important that clubs are required to do some type of service. I understand that it presents kind of a burden. It's like an extra layer of work. I do feel like I've done the boot camp transition because I'm on the executive board of a club. I've done boot camp, I've done the transition papers. I think while it's a burden, I still think it's important that we require clubs to do service because, I wrote that question. I do think, the St. Mary's Way specifically states we have an ethic of service. And I think if we remove the requirement for clubs to perform that service, I feel like it will be really easy for clubs that are maybe social based and not really activism based. Like I'm sure clubs like for example, like Animal Warrior Club, or which I know because I talked to Claire, the president, did not do a service project because she didn't know that they had to. But if there was a requirement to do a service project, there's plenty they could have done. I know Animal Career Club, our freshman year, brought what are they called? Puppies to campus during finals week for people to pet, and like as a way of being stress relief, and they volunteered. It was a great non-rescue organization. So I think it's a way of encouraging clubs to do events on campus and in the community that are beneficial. And it plays in, like I said, it plays in the St. Mary's Way. I think it's important to maintain the ethics of service that we as students are required to hold. I also think that I think kind of like the underlying argument here is that we're seeing more clubs dissolve. because there's a lot of expectations on them. I feel like we really ask that they're, in comparison to what schools our size typically ask of clubs, there's a reason, like, people are like, oh my gosh, there's so many clubs at St. Mary's, it's because we pass so many clubs at St. Mary's. And I think if we're seeing more clubs dissolve, it's not necessarily because we're like crushing them into the ground. It's because there isn't student interest for longevity. There isn't, enough, there isn't really enough of a solid backbone in that club to really make it last. And while it sucks to see a club dissolve, especially if it's something that makes St. Mary's unique, I don't necessarily think it's, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think what we ask of clubs is kind of the what we should ask. And I think, I don't know, I think that we should require service. I don't know if what everybody else thinks, but that's what I think. I don't know.
What I feel is for certain clubs, it is inherently more easier and natural for them to do the community service projects like Animal Career Club. There's also clubs where it would be significantly more harder. For example, I was talking to the improv team today, who would, if this passed, the improv would have to do a community service project. And I remember it was my friend, she's the secretary, she was like, now what would we do? And it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I don't know how to use it.
Okay, but it's like, I still feel significant amount of clubs are really actively upholding the St. Mary's way. And it's something that I know I personally mentioned it because I have a friend in one of the sessions at boot camp. We do mention the St. Mary's way and upholding it through like leadership and like civic engagement. But the requirement, and also in a way, requiring people to be a good person and requiring people to help people, it's an interesting thought. And it's still not explicitly by definition what a club is. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest, like, I have to agree with them, like, I think we do pass page meeting bills, and I think there should be certain requirements in place, because, otherwise, we're gonna have way too many clubs that aren't really doing anything on campus. But my suggestion is, can we, like, amend the current, whatever the service project is, that could fit in needs of clubs like improv, who may not know what to do under the current, dictated community project standard.
That's a possibility.
So you can amend that.
I know,
Something like a flood or something.
yeah, they could do really like communities for clubs or something.
So I've also been very involved in the whole getting clubs organized and situated. And while I agree that the service requirement needs to be amended to give, I think, us some more flexibility and clubs some more flexibility, I think that this is one of the ways we have of making clubs show us that they are invested in what they do and that they are committed to actually doing it. Because it's like, we can talk about the community and everything, which is great, but also this is how we know clubs are serious about wanting to do this. And so I think that there should be some flexibility there. And obviously we've been in a pandemic, so it hasn't worked. And I'm not saying that it should be happening now, but I think going forward in the future, this is something that we should probably look at.
So I do want to mention that something that we're working on, I know Aaron and I have been working on, is at club council meetings now that clubs are going to report what they've been doing over the month, just to make sure they are actively doing stuff. Like, clubs aren't going to be allowed to be inactive anymore. They're going to be asked to report monthly what they did the last month, which I feel with,
So, last question.
Okay, this be something we just implement now and then reinstate a requirement like next year? So I know this whole year has been really weird with like just like low numbers within plus in general, which make it more difficult for these service projects and involvement. So is this something we could reinstate again in the fall as the semester starts on again? Or is this something you see as like a final decision?
I
So if we bring back the clubs, like club coordinator for the service project possibly, because having a single club coordinator do this is still just a bad idea. And I feel like if we implement the service project for a lot of clubs, especially if we wait another semester or so, it will come out of right field for them, or like it'll just come out of nowhere. And they aren't planning for it currently because we haven't done it in like, I know my freshman year, I was like slightly involved in clubs and like I didn't know about it. And I feel like, I personally think just getting rid of it might be a good idea. Especially for them.
Is that a good question?
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
As club coordinator from last year, having to do club coordinator during the pandemic, we were all virtual. We did disband it, and just seeing how clubs are functioning now and being a president of a club as well as the SGA, I also think we should disband it.
Is that a comment?
No, it's a question.
Yeah.
It's a
Quick question.
Okay.
Yeah, you said that you used to be two club coordinators. Why is there only one now?
Singers. There was two club coordinators for 1 year, when we were sort of in transition. In the Constitution, there's only one. It's just in the Bible, there's two. So that's the Constitution for you. I mean, so if you guys feel like this is something that should be explored further, someone can motion to table. I just want to be able to get to our bigger legislation since we have a lot of guests here. So you can either motion to vote on it now or motion to table. I motion to table.
Moving on, and next we have Bill F-21-010, bringing to Africa campus, representing Western, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. So, Brains we did this about 2 years ago. It was a big success with a huge turnout. I think it's important that we bring them back because I think it would mean a lot for brown collections in our school and to really address kind of their backgrounds, their histories, and show that we can have singers, which I think is kind of a big problem for singers in college. And I think that because a big scatter is very popular, so I think it's worth the investment in this.
Cool, any questions from the Senate? Motion for roll call then.
Second.
Motion.
President Rosati.
Aye.
Senator Rudo. President Pastore.
Aye.
President Hatfield.
Aye.
Senator Benesi. Aye. Senator Norman. Aye. Senator Zamora.
Aye.
Senator Ryan.
Aye.
Senator Wolfowitz. Senator Stevens. Senator Schwartz. Senator Brooks. Senator Minor. Senator Rutherford. Senator Amos. Senator Ewart. Senator Campbell. Senator Lacy. Senator Hall. Oh, sorry, Senator Silva.
If it just, I have it for the bill passage. Next up is Bill F-21-11, spring concert funding. Something we like to have.
Well, we have a presentation.
Yeah.
So we're gonna share the
I just
slide, I guess.
send out the thing to you yesterday, and everyone just look at it on their laptops. I don't know how else to do it.
Or just walk around. No?
Show it on, send it out, I'll send it out right now, just have people like write on their desk.
We actually updated it a little bit, I just like how.
Okay. Where are you? You can come up here. Yeah, all of your friends come up front. Careful of yourself.
All right, so this is for the spring 2022 concert. Next slide. So there's a little outline of the presentation. First, we're going to talk about the current committee, then about the event, then we're going to talk about the student survey, the cost, and then benefits to SGA and the student body. Next slide. So I'm Alex. 2022 class president and music club president.
I'm Kayla. I'm the program for the entertainment chair, so I host and plan some of the live events on campus, such as the Seahawks program, but some of the events as an example, and also the competitions and stuff like that. So,
I'm Jesse. I'm director of campus programming / program president, whatever you want to call it. In addition to that, I'm also the philanthropy and service intern for alumni relations. So I do event planning there as well. So I just have a decent amount of experience doing event planning. And then Dylan is also on the team as well.
Next slide. Oh, sorry.
My name is Andre Rochette. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Activities. I've also planned concerts with Take Back Sunday, Anne Berlin, All American Rejects, T-Pain, Phil Vassar, 303, Fabulous, and a few other others. So I've done this one twice.
Okay, and then just to give you a little bit of background about the event, we'll go through this kind of fast because I know everyone had a chance to look at it beforehand. And we can do questions at the end. Date and location is planned to be some Friday in April before World Carnival, so whatever reason that would be. We wanted to leave it kind of open so that we can work with different artists and see when they're available. And then we plan to host in the JLR Stadium. We've already talked to Alan, the men's soccer coach, and Crystal over at the ARC, and they said they don't think it'll be a problem for us to use that space, and they'd be happy to work with us to figure out how we can do that best.
The tickets will only be available for SMCM students and one guest. It allows us to keep an accurate head count and have accountability for those people to attend that concert.
Yeah, and then for the same reasons, we're going to be selling tickets for $10 to $15. I know I talked a little bit about this in the Q&A document, but the goal of that, like obviously we want to make back some money to contribute to the budget that we're asking for, but at the same time, selling tickets allows us more of an accurate head count. It requires a student commitment, so we know that all people who buy tickets are most likely going to come. So we can have more of a numbers game, and we can also keep track of people, and especially keep track of their guests.
That's really well for security purposes. As stated before, we're planning on doing this World Carnival. Traditionally, we've had like a student showcase that time. We want to still include that aspect of it. We would like students to still participate with that showcase and also potentially like heads open for whoever the main act will be in some kind of way that will happen, but also give a lot of students, clubs, organizations opportunities to perform on a large stage as part of a music festival aspect of the student showcase.
And then I know everyone probably has safety concerns. We have already spoken to Tressa, and we're going to continue those conversations. So we do plan to hire the deputies, and we've spoken to them about costs for that. And the main role of having the deputies there would be to keep people from the community out. It wouldn't be to enforce anything on state students, and we would have conversations with them beforehand about their role there. And then also things as far as COVID safety, we are still figuring out exactly how we can do that best. Obviously, we want to require proof of vaccination or negative tests. But we need to figure out exactly how we can do that and how that is allowed without breaking any HIPAA laws or anything like that. And then also little stuff like probably clear bags only or no bags. That's still the conversation we had. But all of those safety rules and stuff will be advertised to students, and most likely it will be required that they like sign something, like purchasing tickets, that they're going to agree to all the safety rules.
We take COVID very seriously. So as everything kind of continues with Omicron and everything as it continues to develop, we will kind of keep an eye on that. We're also taking a lot of information from, what's that band's name? From the Astro World the Houston concert. So we're looking at that, any different things that could have been done in those situations. And Travis Scott, even though I don't imagine we'll have 50,000 people in the JLR, but we could hope. So I think that kind of looking at the safety measures that could have been in place for those concerts, different ways that we could utilize some of those measures here would be helpful. In addition to those things, we'll have food trucks, wristbands for students as another way of kind of keeping an eye on who's inside, making sure that they're inside, and various freebies. So, for concert awards.
All right, so with the help of our class presidents, we sent out a student survey, kind of gauge what the student body would want. If we had a theoretical concert, so some of the questions that we had were like, what kind of genre music do you want to see and hear? What kind of artists would you like to come to the campus? Where would you like to have the concert? Just various questions like that. And we got 283 responses, which I'm not sure what our average response rate is on our surveys, but it was pretty good. It was 300, so you know. But moving on to some of the results.
Yeah, so one of the first questions we asked was, would you attend a concert on our campus with an artist who you can perform? And pretty much everyone said yes. Some people said no or wrote in like maybe. But yeah, so supported for that, and then obviously we do attend a concert on our campus with an artist who did know can perform. A little bit more complicated. Mostly yes, still the 13% there is no. All the random colors are people who wrote in responses, and the overwhelming majority of them are probably or most likely. So yeah, the support is there based on the survey responses that people would want.
And then the next question we had on there was how much would you be willing to pay for a ticket? And those said around 5 to 15, that kind of range. And then another question we asked was genre artists would you most like to have here? And the results were pop alternative. So that's kind of what we're rocking with at the moment. And then we also have some like lovely open ends, like some of what students are saying. So I'll just give you a second to kind of browse through and see what they said. As you can tell, some people are really excited about this if it does happen. Yeah. All right, so breaking down some of the estimated costs. For artists, we looked at Veggie Entertainment, we reached out to Veggie Entertainment about some specific artists we wanted, specifically under 40K. That sheet is actually provided in the Q&A document that was sent out. We put that in the response section. And then for staging and lighting and sound, I reached out to Jeff from the music department. He has a lot of experience in planning and executing concerts. He actually is the founder of the concert series, so that was really cool. He gave us some estimated prices. So again, these prices can vary depending. And then for extra costs like insurance in case any damage happens with the concert, wristbands, and of course like staff shirts and badges for concert committee people. So the estimated cost ranges from like $42,000 to about $54,740. Does anyone have any questions with this one? Because I know, unless you want to hold that for the end, that's totally fine.
Any questions from the Senate? Keep going.
Talking briefly about the benefits, strengthen relationships obviously between all the committee and the student body. So that committee includes SGA program board and the student body. Providing the number one event requested by students. It's pretty informal of a survey, but if you talk to any student, incoming students, they're always like, we like to have a concert, we talk about live entertainment, that's the first thing that comes up. Proceeds from ticket sales being given back to SGA to offset your costs for the bill. Student retention, engagement, recruiting. Students being interested in this is a helpful tool. They're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to want to come here. Admissions is going to publicize the concert as such a huge success. Look what our students can do, so on and so forth, because we enjoy that. In the semester break for students, so it really is like a nice wrap up for the semester for all of you to enjoy, as well as one of your friends.
Okay, I open the floor to the Senate. Any questions? Senator Miller?
So first of all, thank you so much. This is like very extensive presentation. I appreciate you guys putting together. Clearly, you've done a lot of work on this. Senator Murphy and I have a question. I'm a little bit confused about the date. Is there any way like we could do it separate from Will County just because it's kind of a long time in the weekends, like spread out the events throughout the semester? I don't know, like obviously I'm not on program track, so like we have better knowledge of whether or not like that would be beneficial, but from my viewpoint, I think it would be helpful for students to have like events throughout the semester instead of having everything that like is kind of big release for conference one weekend, but.
So the plan is to have two different groups of people. So the programs board is not exclusively responsible for the concert. They are, however, exclusively responsible for World Carnival. The idea of a concert committee being expanded after the bill is hopefully passed would allow us to work with different committees within that concert committee to have a lot of assistance. We would need at minimum 30 volunteers to assist with the concert. The idea of spreading these things out is actually very difficult because of the timeline that's required for us to put on a concert in this spring. So realistically, this is the last time that we can propose this because I would need to have a solid answer for April now. So this is why we kind of put this in here this week or next week at the very latest so that we can begin submitting those proposals for that. We figured anchoring those two things together is actually helpful because in the event that it also falls on some admissions event, then it really all kind of comes together to make the school look as best as it possibly can. For the few students who are kind of sandwiched between both things, it is a heavy workload for them over that weekend, but I think it is important to kind of have two different delegations for the most part to assist with that. That's not overwhelm any individual student.
The other thing about, I think the main benefit for having it lead into World Carnival is that we can then do the student showcase before the concert and have that be on like the large concert stage and give students the opportunity to perform there. Because the student showcase is run by programs board, that's not going to be part of the concert committee. Obviously, we'll work with the people on programs board who are going to put together the student showcase. But that's not, we're not planning for that to be our role. So having them roll back to back would allow us to do the student showcase on a larger scale than we typically do it, which I think would be a cool opportunity for students here.
And the next thing.
Will this be billed and publicized as an specifically SGA sponsored event? Because I feel like, as a 4-year member of SGA, I have noticed that we have somewhat of a negative view on campus, I think, because I think people don't necessarily understand how much we fund and how much we do. And I think if we were to fund this, it would be, especially this amount of money, I think it would be really important that it is
not necessarily the biggest font there, but it's a font that's noticeable that this is sponsored by the SGA. Does that make sense? So is that like something that you would be willing to incorporate?
Yeah, definitely, and especially because the committee will be made up of a lot of SGA members, like, and all your work will go into this as well as the fund. We definitely want to make sure that it's publicized accurately.
And there's go down the line.
Not a question or a comment. I just wanted to say, like, because I heard you guys talk to the soccer coach, just to make sure that you guys talk to some of the teams that will actually be in season when the concert might happen, so that there's not like games going on the next day, you have to take down the whole thing or
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is 100% what happened. So by talking to Crystal, by knowing that the dates and things aren't confirmed as of this moment, that is something that is on their radar now. So they can work around that. They said there's almost no, that it would be an issue that would overlap because of timing or whatever, but they're going to ensure to the best of their ability that wouldn't happen, because we also want to make sure that our student athletes can also enjoy some of the amenities and things that are happening as well.
I guess this question most of you know that you are, but since you have experience doing this, give us some insight into what this budget actually can get us as far as artists go, like if we would actually see some that we personally know. Could we get T-Paid? Like,
You're not getting T-Paid.
Do you know what's happening?
But I think that you can, and the purpose of this is, so there's really like anything less than 28,000, anything less than 30,000 is the same thing as a $1,200 artist because you don't know who they are. So I think this gives us enough of an up and coming artist, like there's someone that you're definitely going to know, and that's kind of the intent behind this. So unfortunately, like I don't know, like Lil Nas X ain't coming here, but like someone who you may have heard a song from in your everyday life, whether that is on like social media or something, you're going to recognize the person when they get here. And that's really the intent behind what we're doing. So we want to make sure that it is something that's recognizable to everyone, or to most people.
So you're saying we can't get those cats?
That was the first person I was requesting, actually. So,
Yeah, I had to debate.
so on that sheet, which is very small, but there's a PDF that can be shared with that information. But all that stuff is one of the resources that we use to determine, and we're going to use to determine.
So I do really appreciate the amount of detail you guys did in the presentation. I do have a couple concerns with it though. One of them, being kind of transparency between this committee being for the SGA and SGA members not having any idea really who you guys would select. And as considering we all represent constituency and we wouldn't have any say in it unless we're on the committee, and I don't think the committee would be for every single SGA member. That is one of my biggest concerns, especially when I don't think people are asking this. Some of my other concerns is how much weight you're putting in the survey, especially since less than 300 students did it, and not that it'd be equivalent, but how the Greens would serve as a really good model as to how students respond to the survey versus how they act. A lot of people respond to the survey saying they were massive to that how Greens, you know, that happened, especially with this variant and school policy being if you are outside, you have to be socially distanced while wearing a mask. That's is one of my concerns. And the last concern is just like the timeline of this. I think it's gonna be really hard to pull off an event that would happen in theory in 9 months. And I think if you were to say it's gonna happen in the fall, or you guys propose this early in the semester, I'd feel more comfortable about voting for it. And I don't know personally, but I know the River Concert Series, like that takes forever to plan. I know Vice President Barton, you would intern with them this summer, so I don't know how long that takes to plan. I don't know any idea.
I know that, I think he plans usually a year in advance, like right after the concert, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and it's like, not to be like anything, but it's mostly gonna be students planning an event. And then you're trying to do this in like 4 months, when it takes this person who's been doing it for, I don't know how many years, a whole year to do the whole River Concert Series. That's one of my concerns again, especially if we're gonna be dropping this amount of money.
Sure. I'll start with your last concern first. So I'm fully confident that we can get this done in April. Because I think that a lot of work, this isn't something that started today. This has been going on for the past few months. There has been a lot of communication. We've talked everything up to a point where we need to have this bill pass in order to proceed. So everyone is in the loop of what's going on. We just really need a date. And then everything will continue to be pushed into place. The difference between this concert and the River concert is the River concert series is that it's multiple concerts. This is one concert, one person that we have to work with through an agent that we already have a very good relationship with. So that's one of the biggest parts. And I do feel, I understand what you're saying about $55,000 being a lot of money, and it feels like it's rushed. And if there's one thing that I'm pretty adamant about is that I'm not going to give you half of a product. You're going to get the entire thing that you paid $55,000 for. The first concern that you had about the transparency for SGA, I do think that there is a healthy level of transparency that is required. At the same time, too many voices could make this process much more difficult because it does need to be, and I think the committee can definitely expand from the 5 people that exist. I would like for it to be inclusive of at least one person of every class to really be more inclusive of what's going on. I think that for every concert that I've ever been a part of, you never release the name of the artist immediately. You want to build hype for a concert. Even if it's someone that people may not have heard of, you still want to build hype. There's teasers, there's very small things that kind of increase the enthusiasm for students to enjoy this thing. If you would like to know who that is, I think that in a closed session, I think that information could be shared amongst the members of the SGA if that's who they're paying for. But we would prefer very much so if that information stays as far as it needs to go and is not spread out throughout campus because it kind of hurts the efforts that we're putting on with the concert. I forget your second point, unfortunately, what your second concern was.
Yeah, that was a COVID thing along the way with the surveys.
Yes. I think the difference between this concert and Hollow Greens is that the best way I can put it is that this is a sanctioned event. So I think that we have the full power to remove people who aren't participating and aren't following the rules that need to be. All the public safety will be there and the deputies will be there as well. So I have no problem going around telling people to vacate if they're not following the rules that are necessary, because we need the concert to be as safe for every person who's attending this. So if you have an issue with that, then we can be removed from the concert.
Did that answer everything?
Yeah. Any questions?
I'm just wondering, this is not for Treasurer Wage. So like all of us like voted yes for this legislation and the one that's coming up. How much do you think we have in our budget for the rest of the semester or school year?
So all of this money will be coming out of the special carryover fund, which has really no impact on our budget moving forward. The budget is established and set at the beginning of the year, and it is funded this year exclusively through the student fees that we all paid from the tuition. So the funding that happens here has no impact on that.
I'll take one more question. And remember, this will be tabled because of the amount, so we will be saying it next week, unless the motion is to split goals. But any more questions?
So because we're in the list of artists that you have on the Q&A document, a lot of those are just by nature of where the music industry is right now, like West Coast based. We are literally the opposite side of the country. So in terms of, so that kind of already cuts down the availability of artists. And then, I don't know what my question is here necessarily. I guess I think it's just, what do you think the feasibility is that we'll have any real choice in an artist we can get within this budget that is I feel like it would be a waste of our money to get an artist who necessarily isn't enough of a, like, I was looking at that list and all the ones that I could like clock as like people might know them were in like the 20 to 30 range, which is already pushing the end of our budget. And anything below that, I was like, we won't get any turnout. So I guess what I'm asking is, what do you think the feasibility is that we will get artist who's available in April, willing to come to Maryland, willing to come to a small school where we can't necessarily guarantee that they'll be playing to like a crowd of 1,000 or a larger crowd because we are a small school, we're in a rural area. And has there been any talk about potentially doing like something block booking style with like Salisbury or Frostburg to try to maybe increase the lure for getting an artist out here? I know that would be a significant amount more coordination, but I feel like that might make it a lot more feasible of an event and something where I could look at it and say, okay, this has the potential to actually bring an artist people will want to see. Because I think students can say, I totally go to a concert for an artist I don't know, but not to use anecdotal evidence again, but to use anecdotal evidence again. 2 years ago, before COVID, I had friends who were going to a concert, and I was like, I love you guys, but I do not want to go see a Wiz Khalifa concert because I don't know any Wiz Khalifa songs. And one of the funnest parts of a concert is going around and being able to like sing and look around, but you don't know the songs. I don't know, especially if we're keeping it quiet for a really long time leading up to the concert, people don't necessarily have an opportunity to train. I guess this is it for lack of a
We
better.
won't give people ample time to train.
Okay, to train. But I
Yeah,
guess, is it like feasible to get a known artist?
So to answer all of your questions, the West Coast, East Coast thing doesn't matter because if I'm paying you $25,000, you're gonna come. The second part is, I think there will be ample time to release that information because at the same time we're building hype. We also want people to know who's coming, to be able to enjoy who's coming, to learn songs. Even if it's bands I know, I still re-listen to old songs before I go to a concert, so you can get them down.
There's a lot. I tend to pile on.
As it relates to pay, yeah, the feasibility is high. Yeah, we would 100% get someone, provided that we have students. Because of the way, not to bore you with the industry, but people aren't booking things further in advance and booking things more close because they don't know what the future looks like. So honestly, it's more beneficial for us now to book something in April because there's a lot of availability, but that may not be true in the beginning of January. But feasibility, I think it's very high, and our price is actually, we're looking at the kind of like the mid-30s, because we can still operate in a budget in mid-30s with a proposal of 35 being pushed out and accepted.
Okay. And then considering like, is there any consideration of coordinating with like another school to maybe bring a little bit of a higher label artist?
So the agents that we work with do kind of figure out, they give us a short list of things that would best meet our requests. And then we kind of work with that short list to kind of negotiate a price that we're all comfortable with and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But yes, those conversations do happen.
Is your question for?
I was gonna make a motion to suspend the rules so people are on here.
If questions are done,
Our question's done.
then yes. First, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. No, we just suspended the rules. So the rules have been suspended, therefore we are going to be voting. Motion for a roll call
Motion, second.
vote.
Senator Tuttle, aye. Senator Lacy, Senator Campbell, aye. Senator Sosa, aye. Senator Gaylord, Senator Amos, Senator Rutherford, Senator Minor,
Senator Brooks, Senator Schwartz, Senator Stevens, Senator Wolfowitz, Senator Ryan, Senator Zamora,
Abstain.
Senator Norton, Senator McNesney, Senator, Class President Hatfield, Class President Pastore, Student Leader Rudo, said nay. And, Class President Mazzarri.
Azad, you should put a hat.
If you can use chairs that have happened or passes.
You can vote on stuff.
Voting hasn't closed. Okay, next up is Bill F21 Cloud, SGA Hawk Radio Studio revamp. President Lim.
Yeah, okay, so in the early 2000s, the Hawk radio space was busting. Very popular resource for students on campus and very heavily used, but we saw a decline as the digital age emerged and a more on-demand approach to content became more popular. And so Hawk Radio is still a resource for students, but it's time that we revamp it. It's the SGA Hawk Radio Studio revamp. We have been working with different companies to figure out, what would the feasibility of this be. This quote is from a trusted company, and the reason that's important that we see this tonight is that when a bill for something over $25,000 is passed, it has to go through a bidding process, and that process lasts 21 days. And one of the primary concerns of people related to this project was having the space not available to students and wanting it for the seniors. So that's why I'm requesting that someone motion to table the rules, or to suspend the rules for this bill as well, so that that bidding process, which takes 21 days, can happen. And theoretically, by the time we all come back in the spring, maybe we'll have like another week or two, and then this space will be available for students. It has a lot of student co-sponsorship. I've had multiple people reach out to me very excited about this project in a way that I haven't seen passion from students in the past. So I'm strongly encouraging you to vote yes on this. I've had students literally come into my office to talk about it in person instead of just emailing me. So I would say that this is a resource that would be valued by students. I have a whole document of supporting information that I've sent to all of you, so I'm hoping that there is minimal questions. But if anyone has any questions, I will take them now.
Questions for the center?
Yeah, Nathan.
You know some of the stuff they would do?
One more time?
Some of the stuff they would add to like revamp to it.
Yeah, so in the supporting documentation, it details everything very explicitly, but essentially there would be two studios. One would be a 4-person, one would be a 2-person. There'd be feasibility to have more than those people in the space, but that is like the amount of microphones and videos that would be in the space. You'd be able to do anything from recording your Dungeons and Dragons game and streaming it to Twitch, to recording your own Anything Gen Z podcast and posting it to YouTube. There'll be live stream features, but you can also save it and post it later. And then the idea with the Hawk Radio Club is to sort of bring the club back so that we can have a revamped website. A revamped website to post content that would actually be like sort of sponsored by the school. So the idea is the student can go in there and record their own stuff that is not censored in any way, and as long as like it's their content that they can go post on their own channel. But then we'll also have the sort of like St. Mary's stream aspect of it. So it'll still be very much like this is a club and we have St. Mary's content, but also it's a resource for students. Senator Norman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I have two questions actually. Okay, can you just explain how this studio is going to be different from what library on the floor?
Yeah, the studio and the library, well, there's a couple reasons it'll be different. Firstly, the studio and the library is extremely lacking. I myself have tried to do some things in there for classes difficulty, and since Justin has left, it's been really difficult. He was the guy that's like responsible for planning everything, and I haven't seen a lot of use out of that. There's one room where you can record, it's small, they don't have the sort of, you can walk in, press a button feature that this one will have. Like, the idea with this new space is that if I'm a student who's never ever worked with technology, I can walk in, press a button, do my thing, press the button again, and it's done. It'll also have, there'll just be like more room for people. And then the club aspect is something that's not. It's very different from the library. That was definitely like the biggest concern I had when I first started the student project.
Okay, perfect. And then also, my only other question was, and this might be a little bit, I don't miss it, but so you said that anyone can use this space at any time. Like, do you have to request access to it, or can you just kind of walk in?
Yeah, so we'll definitely look into what are the best options for this. We've explored having a couple students be hired to actually manage the space, but if we find that it's more feasible to have the Hawk Radio Club manage the space, they'll be the ones booking. So you'll be able to sign up for a time slot, but I have to imagine that if there is a manager of the space in the studio and you have signed up for a time slot and you walk in, like, if I'm someone who's passionate about Hawk Radio, I'm not gonna be like, no, sign up for a time slot. So I think it'll be, you sign up, but they'll also maybe be like open hours. Okay. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
And to add to that too, if we end up having this St. Mary's content website and you're someone who has a weekly thing, I assume that you'd be able to do like a semester long weekly booking, like every Thursday at 2, I'm doing my Anything Gen Z podcast. Sorry, I keep bringing that up.
Oh, wait, I
Yeah,
see,
you do.
I see it in your document.
No, it's really fine. Yeah.
Sorry,
That's not funny.
I don't remember from the document, but there's still gonna be a radio channel, or is it just gonna be?
That'll be replaced by the website. So imagine that you go to this website and there's an archive of content where you can go to the Anything Gen Z weekly thing where you have like all of the past podcasts, but then also there's a stream that's sort of just like constantly running student created content from the past. And then if someone wants to do a live show, like that stream is interrupted by the live show. And then once that live show is done, back to circulating content. Yeah. Yeah.
And also it'll be done when we get back from break, is that, or what?
That's the hope, but I can't promise that. I can tell you that if you pass this tonight, if you suspend it when you pass it tonight, there's a higher likelihood it'll be done for you to use. 2022 president. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, but thank you.
Any questions?
Any final questions?
Okay, my friend, John.
Well, thank you.
Cool. Have a motion for, roll call vote.
Vice President Bazali.
Aye.
Vice President, Senator Rudeau. Aye. Vice President Pastorin.
Aye.
Vice President Hatfield.
Aye.
Senator McKenzie. Aye. Senator Norton. Aye. Senator Zamora. Aye. Senator Ryan.
Aye.
Senator Wolf Popovich. She's absent, you can come back here again. Senator Stevens. Aye. Senator Schwartz.
Aye.
Senator Brooks.
Aye.
Senator Minor. Aye. Senator Rutherford. Senator Amos.
Aye.
Senator Depart.
Aye.
Senator Sosa. Senator Campbell. Senator Lacy. Senator Tuttle.
Anything to the ayes have it, vote passes. Okay, cool. Next is officer report, first event report.
Yeah, okay, thank you guys so much for unanimously passing that. It's definitely been a passion project, as I would describe it, so I'm very happy right now. Next week, I was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we'll do these instead, so you don't have to stay an extra hour tonight. Yay. Also, we'll have minimal legislation, so if there's anything you've been looking to pass that isn't time sensitive, maybe consider waiting until next semester to do it. We'll likely be seeing a piece of legislation that DP Carr and some people are going to propose, but besides that, the shorter we can keep next week's meeting, the better, so we can do our committees. We'll also have snacks as provided by Derek, so that'll be fun. As another note, we don't have alumni council rep who's here right now, but Giving Tuesday officially surpassed its goal of 2,000 donors. Yay! So thank you to everyone who signed up as an influencer and all the hard work you guys have put in. It's been great to see new clubs like Morgan's Message involved and getting like a lot of donor sponsorships. So that's great. Also, thank you for passing Step Africa. I'm so excited about that. I love South Africa. And then, as a fun little announcement, sweatshirts are on the way. So I haven't announced that yet, because we've been waiting, they've been claiming like shipment issues and the whole supply chain thing, but we are going to have sweatshirts for all of our voting senators, so that's awesome. Yes. And then lastly, we have a birthday resolution that I don't have a physical copy of, but there are balloons strewn around the room, because on Thursday, it is Vice President Carr's birthday. So happy early birthday. And if anyone has any questions about anything that's been happening on campus, any of the bills you saw tonight, just contact me. We definitely saw a lot of big pieces of legislation, and thank you for all of your hard work analyzing them and making sure we're making responsible decisions. That's big.
Thank you. I don't have anything to report, so Liz, you can report on. Okay, I do. So, thank you. Next week, I will do something fun. If you have like an ugly Christmas sweater, Hanukkah sweater, Hanukkah sweater, Peace Day, Day sweater, I don't know, wear it next week. I'm wearing one. Maybe Derek will wear one. So yeah, if you have an ugly holiday sweater, please wear it. It's fun. So yeah. Next is Secretary meeting report. Secretary report. Oh, great. Oh, quick.
Okay, I do have something to report. This Friday is the queer formal, which anyone's welcome to come to, and it's gonna be super cool. We're gonna have snacks with you and a real DJ and a photo booth. And Calvin will probably talk more about it, but I'm excited. Oh, it's 8 p.m. to midnight at DPC on Friday. I wish Chris mentioned it more.
Senator, we got anything to report?
Yes, I have 2 things to report on the new Senator of the Month first.
Sure.
Okay, Senator of the Month goes to a member in SGA who's very actively involved and has been for a number of years, both in SGA and around campus, and just gave a presentation on policy. So Senator of the Month is Senator Ryan. And the last announcement I have is I will be leaving this semester. I'm officially studying abroad, so I'll be studying at Senate Leader. So anybody who's interested in becoming Senate Leader, please email me, hopefully by Thursday, so we can get an appointment order in for the next meeting. So, yeah.
Your survey.
Oh, yes, I'm also going to be sending out a survey in like 2 seconds once I press send, that I'd like everybody to fill out, just about the student satisfaction this year. It'll really help exec members, figure out stuff for next semester. That's all.
Perfect, we're gonna have to your thing is actually great. Representative report, Representative Crane report.
Yeah. So there was a meeting I had with Dr. Holland and a couple other open housing members about just the survey we sent out about changing the name. So we are now open and inclusive housing, or OI, for short, she wants to have, she wants to be there, like, present for like the LGBT committee, or just like any kind of thing, and have more members of open housing there. So we can just have more like voices from open housing rather than having to schedule like a meeting like we had, and just be more organized so we have more voices. She also said at that meeting that she was going to, during our break that happened, that she wanted to go through open housing and review the bathrooms, that she saw pictures of it, and she said, that is not cool. And I also told her about the leaks and molds that were like mold that was spreading throughout the basement floor, personally in my room. So she said she checked that out, but I am going to follow up with her to see if that actually happened. But that's about the gist of it.
Okay, that's Representative Atkins, anything for it? Okay. Representative Buster, anything for it? Okay, cool, on to Senate report, Senator, people, anything for it?
Two things. Originally, the email said that campus wellness committee was going to meet, but we're not. It's late. Instead, we'll restock across campus, on Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. So for people in the community, if you can help, that would be great. There's also going to be a sign-up sheet for the goodie bags at the groom, which is what we're doing instead of midnight breakfast. So we just need that day. It's Tuesday on the 14th. So if you can sign up to table, there's only 4 slots that need to be filled. So please do that.
I just want to say, so both myself, class president, and vice president, Sayers from my class are going abroad. It'll be. So that is being passed on my secretary, and Vila is going to become the acting president, and we're going to try to find another person or two who help out the class. If anybody knows anyone in class 23 who'd be interested in helping out, please send them my way. So Jasmine is having her concert this Friday, 7:30 p.m. In Monty. So please come by. We're kind of good. So
7:30.
why 7:30?
It's 7:30. There's misinformation around Monty at the moment.
Oh, no, it's 7:30.
I don't know, the town line office is doing hotspot mapping, like discussion sessions this Friday again. They're offering a $10 rate card to anyone who participates. It's an hour of your time. If you go to the SNCM Channel 9 Instagram, all the info is there. Just put that in the report. Thank you.
Anything else to report?
The men's rugby team is instituting server monitoring training, something we worked with Title 9 and a little Derek Young this weekend. If anyone's interested, asking more about it, hopefully we can do it on some other clubs and teams as well.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. I know I've talked a lot today. Thanks for bearing with me through that repeat policy. I know that was a lot, but I really appreciate all of your feedback, and it's going to be really helpful going into my committee meeting on Thursday. Yeah, come dance with us on Friday.
Sorry, if you're a senior, get your pine glass and hit the door this Thursday.
Woo!
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Okay, any other announcements? Anyone? Going twice? Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I close the meeting at 9.